Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome again to the latest ADM Agriculture YouTube market update. I'm joined today by my colleague Freddie Humfrey, and we're just going to take a quick look at the wheat market. I mean, we've seen quite a significant setback over the last week with consolidation throughout the global grains markets, really on the back of issues around this new COVID variant, and the trade being concerned that it may have a longer term impact on demand, and maybe even we see further significant lockdowns. In addition to that, we've also seen Arbor change their Aussie crop figure, and certainly that number's got bigger. What have you made of that, Freddie?
Yeah, so the number came out at 34.4 million metric tons for all wheat in Australia for production this year, which is a record. I think the real question now turns to what the quality is going to be like. So we've seen significant rainfall across particularly New South Wales over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Precipitation levels 300 to 400% higher than the normal average for this time of the year. So as I say, the real question goes back to what's the quality like? Do we see a significantly larger feed wheat pile in Australia? If that is the case, then it really asks the question of what that does to global trade flows. Normally that high grade, high protein human consumption would go into China and Southeast Asia. If it simply isn't there owing to the quality of the crop coming out of the ground, then does that push trade flows back into to Russia and Europe, which obviously has its own issues, doesn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the fact is, though, the global exporters' stocks-to-use ratio levels are probably at the lowest levels since 2007-8. Russia is still a real concern, with a lot of demand still uncovered for 2022. The Russians could well put on some sort of quota or tariff that could impact on old crop supplies from Q1 next year. And then looking forward to new crop, we really need the world to produce a big crop to start rebuilding stocks. And at the moment in North America, we've still got dry or even drought-like conditions in some areas. So I think from a fundamental point of view, we've seen a very big rally in a very short space of time, and probably due some sort of correction. But what about from a technical perspective, Freddie? How's that looking?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, specifically from a more London wheat orientated perspective, so we've got the May 22 wheat chart on a daily up on the screen there. You can see that that all-time high we reached back just over a week ago at 244.95. That spiked out and then broke through the mid and the lower prong on the Andrews pitchfork that you can see running through leg 3 and 4 there. So we pulled back into the support line at 227, 228, and maybe we're thinking it might get down to 225 that we saw previously in mid-Nov as a support level, but that seems to have been broken this morning. So we're thinking we might see a little bit of a pullback on the leg B of that ABC pullback within this wider Elliott wave spread, and that should bring us into something like 235, maybe 236 on the May wheat before we see potentially the final C leg of that ABC pattern moving lower again. So it's working really quite neatly from a technical perspective, and when you think about time frames, that puts us into the middle end of deck, and then really a fresh start for January. We wouldn't be surprised if we do try to retest the highs, and it really will come back to what's driving the forces when we get back in early January as to whether we keep going on this longer term macro uptrend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lots of volatility in this market for sure. This market is not boring. We probably expect to see some more fireworks both up and down before this trading season's over. But anyway, there we are. Thanks again for tuning in today. If you've got any questions, any queries about what we've spoken about, please don't hesitate to get in touch with your ADM Ag Farm buyer, or alternatively, reach out to us on the contact details at the end of the video. Thanks again.
Lovely stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Freddie.
Bye.